Welcome back to Sonia's Space. This is your host, Sonia, and I am really excited to dive into topics on smashing stereotypes, questioning expectations, and amplifying our voices while rewriting the rules. We're talking about breaking barriers, redefining identity, and standing strong in our truth, even when the world tells you otherwise. Today, I'm joined by Bianca Alba, creator of Latina Travels, and how she started this journey as a passion, which turned into a community platform that challenged expectations, opened doors for others, and proven that labels don't define us, our actions do. Thank you for joining us today, Bianca. How are you doing today?
Hi, Sonia. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. Today is a good day. I'm getting ready for a race tomorrow, mentally, physically, emotionally, just all on high. Ask me how I'm doing on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be great. And I love that for you. So just let's start with like a brief introduction of yourself. Can you talk about yourself, your podcast, and talk about your community platform of Latina Travels and like exactly what that is?
Sure. So my name is Bianca Alba, and I'm the founder and creator of This Latina Travels, a travel platform dedicated for women, specifically Latina women, to travel the world. So I did not grow up traveling. I actually am a proud Latina immigrant, and like many immigrant households, we were just trying to survive. So vacations and trips were not a thing growing up. And as being the oldest, even like more, like I didn't have a lot of things that now my younger sisters have. So I had this aspect of like, I always wanted to travel. I always dreamed of living by the beach or going on beach vacations, but it never happened until now that I'm a full adult. I get to live here in Puerto Rico, which is now what I call home. But again, I never thought that this would be my full time thing. I got my master's in public health. So I went to school, was the first in my family to graduate. I have no student debt. I decided to go into public health because I always desired and loved the act of serving. I just didn't want to be a doctor because, as probably many can relate, we're always told to be successful, you have to be either a doctor or a lawyer, engineer. Well, I was a rebel and I did not want to do any of that, but I
Mhm.
wanted to help. And so that's how I fell in love with public health. And so my career within public health was with the federal government for about 10 years until
Wow.
all this stuff that happened with the government this year. So now I'm, career shifting into my business called This Latina Travels. And I'm here just, loving every single bit of it. There are, some good days and there are some bad days, just like everybody. But I'm just loving this journey because I feel like finally I'm choosing me.
And I can sense that from you. I can sense your passion. And I can also relate because I come from like an immigrant family and I was actually born in Karachi, Pakistan, but I moved to the States when I was really young. And I practically grew up here, but I totally understand the background that we come from, coming from an immigrant family and the expectations that are laid out for us and the struggles that we have to face or go through, especially when it comes to like traveling and stuff. It's a little different, especially for women, for us, for women. So I can totally relate to that. And I'm so glad that, you are part of this journey of Latina travels in the space of entrepreneurship. Was there a specific moment or event that led you to this journey, or was it like a series of events? Like, what made you kickstart Latina Travels?
Yeah, so I started this Latina Travels as a podcast. So like the whole world back in 2021 when, we were shut down during the pandemic, I decided to start a podcast. But I decided to start a podcast because I needed something that was not COVID related. So as I mentioned, I worked with the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So I was
Mhm.
literally working 80-hour weeks. When I tell you I was breathing, sleeping, dreaming, everything COVID related, I was going pretty crazy. And so I
Yeah.
said, I need to do something that's not work related for my own mental stability. And so that's why I decided to start it as a podcast because I was like, I have so many good gems and stories to share. And if one person listens, that to me is a win. And so I started as a podcast. I hired a podcast editor, one of my sorority sisters, and I said, let's just do these fun episodes. Nothing, serious, but I just want people to also, of course, take something because I'm an educator by trade as well. And so those podcast episodes led me to different communities. And then little did I know, it became a full business. So when I tell people I really started this as a passion project, I really did. It was just one day I wanted to record my stories so some people can relate. And it just hit off from there.
That is actually awesome. And I get it. Like when you're in the workspace, you need a creative outlet, right? Like I feel like there's different facets to our life. It can't just only be work, and you can be good and passionate about different things and not just indulge yourself into just one thing. There's like multiple facets of us and parts of our personality that need to be exposed, right? So that's awesome, that's great, and I can, of course, totally relate. I'm a podcaster as well, and it's a creative outlet for us, and it's nice to know when you start podcasting, you're like, "Wow, people can actually relate to us, and they like to hear our stories, and they feel heard." And that's an amazing feeling to have. Let's go into stereotyping. I know this is a huge topic of conversation that's on your platform. And I want to ask, what do you think are the most common stereotypes people hold in your community or your field?
Yes, I think the first thing is the installment of fear, right? Like because many people within the Latino community or just community and immigrant community in general, it's that fear of going anywhere outside your norm, outside your home, right? Like, no, you should not travel by yourself. Or no, you should wait, especially as being a woman, you should not travel by yourself. You should wait to have a partner. You should wait to be married.
Yeah.
Or, again, like you shouldn't, leave home because you have these family obligations or because you're supposed to do XYZ according to society. So it's all that stuff that also leans in with travel that I've had to literally just break those generational, I call them curses, because at the end of the day, like we get to decide like what we want to do. Like, yes, there's these stereotypes out there and yes, have been passed on from generation to generation. But for me, it's like, okay, well, there comes a time where like, our ancestors didn't fight this hard to get to where we're at for me to continue that routine. Like, and that's what
Yeah.
keeps me going. And that's what I'm like, no, they say that we shouldn't travel. Well, I'm going to travel. They told me like, do not go to this place. Well, I'm going to go to this place. So again, I think there's a lot of components out there that I think are based of fear more than even just reality. I think a lot of our community just says things because that was said to them or because that was passed on. But at the end of the day, you need to make, your decisions.
And as a South Asian, I can absolutely relate to this because I feel like women, especially, we're put into this box where we're only meant to maybe go to school, but then just get married. Your life starts when you get married. So, whatever you want to do, you can do it after you get married, right? Like, you cannot really explore your passions and, go traveling and do all of these things prior to getting married. And I feel like I agree. My mom, my grandmother, they did those things because they really had to struggle for us. But then I feel like it's really up to us and we were at a good spot and have the resources. And I'm the same way. I'm like, no, I'm going to travel before I get married. I'm going to do all of these things for myself because I'm also setting an example for my future generation, right? And I love that for us. And isn't it liberating to like my mom, my grandmother, or like women in my family did not do this, but like we're breaking this generational trauma, this generational curse. Like we're taking on the responsibility of doing that. And I think that's really setting the pathway for our future generation. So I really love that. How can storytelling or visibility help break stereotypes? So like of course like with podcasting and stuff or anything else, like how can it break stereotypes?
When I say it out loud, it sounds so simple, but yet I feel like it's so complicated. I think representation matters. That's why I started also a podcast because I didn't see so many women who looked like me traveling the world. And so once you have somebody who you can relate to, I think it's game over because you're like, well, if she can do it, then I can do it too. So I think that's the first thing. The first thing is finding your community, finding your people, finding those podcasts, like going to those conferences, being in those spaces is so, so important. And I can't even like tell you how many opportunities, how many friendships, just things that I have opened my eyes because I also have mentors. I also have community that I look up to. But I would say that would be key, making sure that you can relate to somebody. And at the end of the day, representation truly does matter.
Representation does come from from storytelling and talking about your background. It's not easy doing that. I'm sure as podcasters, being vulnerable and sometimes speaking on your past or things or your background and your family, it's not necessarily easy to be that vulnerable, but you're staying true to yourself, right? You're staying true to yourself to say all of these things. So, how do you find balance between proving people wrong and staying true to yourself? That comes with stereotyping and it comes with like the people of our community. How do you find that balance, especially having this platform?
Yeah, that's tough because and I'm sure you can relate, but in especially in the Latino community, I feel like everybody has an opinion. And so you're
Mhm.
never ever going to please everybody. So I think that's the first step. So I'm going to say that again. Like you're never ever going to please everybody. You can be Mother Teresa, you could be the most perfect person in the world, but still somebody is going to disagree with you. Somebody's going to not like what you're doing. Putting that already in the back of your mind, it really does help because that's what's helped me. Like, I know that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I know, not everybody will support me, but that's okay because I have the group of people in my community that will. And that's where I need to focus on. So that's where you need to lean your focus on. The goal is never to have everybody like you. The goal is to
Yeah.
just live in your full purpose, and that's what I think traveling has definitely done for me. It's allowed me to ground myself, to clarify what my goals or what my visions are, but you also don't have to explain yourself to everybody. I think that's something I definitely have learned over the years. I think my younger self would try to please everybody, right? Would try to like be
Mm.
like, no, okay, Fulanita, person A doesn't like me. Well, I'm gonna do everything in my power for her to like me. But once you get older and once you start lifing, you realize that it's okay. It's okay that
Yeah.
not everybody is gonna agree with you, and so you just have to find that balance, for yourself at the end of the day.
That's the thing. I feel like people tend to sometimes even project onto you. You're not living their life and they're not living your life, right? We all have separate lives and it's okay to not be liked by others. And this is something that I had to personally deal with a lot. And I feel like I'm finally coming to the point where I'm more accepting of it because just like you, I grew up as like a people pleaser. I think it's just a community that we come from. It's like, yes, ma'am, everything we have to do and just follow the societal expectations and whatnot. But it's not realistic. Like, why would you want to live a life conforming to that? And it's hard to find a balance. It really does come down to your mindset. Are you willing to be okay with not being liked, not being talked about? And it's not easy, but I feel like it gets easier as you keep doing it. Do you agree? Like it's just easier and you just kind of block out that noise eventually.
Yes, I would say it definitely becomes easier, but there are some days, of course, we're human that, I go on in a downfall. But no, I
Mhm.
will definitely say from my own experience, I mean, one thing therapy has helped me a lot, but also just knowing that like little things, like I used to always be so cautious of when people would like read my emails or like unsubscribe. But now I'm like, okay, if they unsubscribe, it's their loss, not mine.
Yeah.
So I think it does come with timing and with just a lot of self-work, like a lot. And it's
Mm.
not there's no shame. Like I have no shame in saying I go to therapy, that I have, done things to help myself be to get myself out of, a funk. Because we're human at the end of the day. And, there's these hard times right now. So you just have to do what's best for you. But I do think that throughout the years it has gotten better.
Yeah, and I think it's very noble and a hard thing to even say that you're doing therapy, but it's important because I feel like everyone needs therapy. It's okay to get therapy because we need to do the inner work to live a life true to ourselves, especially in our community. I feel like mental health is such a stigma. I do think it's getting better and we are progressing, but it takes a lot of guts to be like, you know what, I did do therapy. You're being vulnerable and you're saying, these are the tendencies that I had before and these are the tendencies I have now and that's good and it can help people to also get therapy for themselves. I know we're talking about mental health and stereotyping. Someone who also likes to travel, you realize that the world is so big and these matters are so small, right? Especially when you're traveling, you're just like, none of that matters because the world is so big. And why are we worried thinking about other people when there's so much out there, right?
Yes, I 100% agree. Once you start traveling and you realize literally how small you are in this big universe, you're
Mhm.
like, yeah, no, there's definitely other bigger things to worry about. Like for me, I'm more worried about where my next adventure is gonna be, where I'm gonna, get this cool flight deal or what my next partnership because you have other things that you just want to focus on. So I 100% agree.
So, what are some of the lessons you've learned about obviously choosing yourself first, whether that's like through travel, wellness, saying yes to new opportunities? What are some of the lessons that you've learned?
So I would say one of the first lessons that I have learned and early on have had to accept as well, because you could learn, but then it's like, okay, well, you can accept it is just the permission to rest. Like
Mhm.
even just saying that out loud, I think we're prone, especially as women of color, to always be on the go, 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 to never have a day off. To, oh my gosh, don't take leave because no, it's a bad thing. No, but you need to give yourself permission to rest. And so that's what travel has done. It's given me that opportunity to really go out of my comfort zone as well and just focus on me and choose joy. Like that's another
Yeah.
beautiful thing. I always tell people, like one thing that I love to say is like, while growing up, my parents traveled for necessity, but I travel for joy. So
Yeah.
to even just say that out loud is such a beautiful thing that I get to go to these different countries to experience, happiness, to experience something that my ancestors and my, parents never got to do. And that to me itself is a lesson because if we just take that, like I feel like that could be passed on to generation and generation and really teach others to realize that resting is totally okay and that we do deserve it all.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because women tend to want to prove themselves a lot. So it's like, "Oh, are you a hard worker? Are you always working? Are you always doing this?" Or but you realize that's not the true essence of success either because
Mhm.
what's to success if you're not happy or if you're not resting or if you're not finding joy in things, right? You're basically a slave to your job or whatever you're doing. You have to find a good balance in everything and that's so true, like, you have to find the things that bring you joy, and I can tell for you, it's traveling and it's, you're podcasting, and I can agree. That feeling of, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be the next place where I travel to," that already brings you joy in itself, right? That is such a privilege, especially for where we come from. It is a
Mhm.
privilege to have that, and I think it's great. We're setting up something great for the future generation. What strategies or mindset shifts helped you move past judgment or bias? Like, is there something specifically that you're doing, a
Mhm.
certain strategies in place that you have where you're just kind of moving past judgment or bias when you can, obviously, because you can't do it all the time?
I think first thing, I mean, I briefly talked about it, right, with therapy, like something that has helped me is just like the way I talk to myself. And I think that's so simple, but yes, also so important. So affirmations for me are a huge thing. So every morning, even if it's a couple words to myself, but just reminding myself like I am capable, like I am beautiful, like I am strong. Like the fact that I get to get up and still be able to breathe, still be able to walk my dogs. I have all that power. Like so talking light and positivity is a great way to kill these mindsets that could bring us down some days. I also feel like building community, and I always talk about this within my community. Like we are our biggest advocates. I always say like, especially as being minorities, the word minorities to me is just so like, objectified because I feel like we're the majority. Like, and
Yeah.
that's what's so like powerful. Like the fact that I know that I'm not alone and so
Mhm.
just surrounding myself with people who will believe in my dreams, people who will support me. And it's not just like financial support. I always say the fact that people like will reach out and be like, I believe in you or I like can relate is so much. So just finding that group of people and just knowing like you're not alone is such an essential way of just shifting your mind, of just strategies that I feel like I don't take for granted. Like, I know that I have certain people that I can reach out to if I'm having a bad day, for example, right? Or if
Mhm.
I know that I'm going to a conference, it's like I have a certain group of people that I know that I can rely on that will go on to this conference with me so I don't feel like I'm by myself. It's just knowing those things about yourself and just making sure, like, at the end of the day, you work on what's best for you. So if you can't right now afford therapy, then work on there's journaling, there's podcasts specifically to help you getting out of certain situations. So it's just
Yeah.
finding those, like, grounding practices that work best for you.
Yeah. I literally posted a video on my Instagram, and this is just a lot of self-reflection that I've been doing these past few years, especially over the last year. And it was about being a product of your environment. Your environment is so important, right? And what I mean by that is like not only the people that you surround yourself with, it's everything that you consume. It's what you eat, it's what you do, it's everything. You make that decision for yourself. And I noticed when I started making changes in my life, I'm like, okay, like these are the changes I want to make in my physical health, my mental health, like whatever, the books that I'm reading, the things that I'm watching, even like the friends that I've kept around or like have not kept around. It makes a huge difference to your lifestyle and to your mindset. And we're really shaping our reality that way. So I absolutely agree. First, you have to do the work for yourself, but it's also the community and the people that you're around that you don't have to think twice before saying something. I know as a Latina, South Asian, we really do struggle with the judgment and all of that. But and it is what it is, but you want to also surround yourself with people where you can truly be yourself and then they're supporting you through your journey or whatever it is that you're doing. So I do think that's really important. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. I mean, I'm sure when you look back, you're like, I've come a long way. I've come a long way and I've done so much for myself and I'm going to continue to obviously better myself. I think it's also not easy to have that self-awareness and do the inner work. It's not easy to do that. And if you continue to
Yes.
do that, you can set up a good life for yourself.
Yeah.
So I agree.
100% agree. I love what you said because I think it's so important. I heard once in a book or in a podcast about how the 5 people that you surround yourself with are a reflection of who you are. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, when I heard that, I was like, "Ooh," like I felt that in my core.
Mhm.
And like I mentioned, like I've had different stages in my life where, like, my friends back in the day may not be my friends now. And there's no, like, grudge or no sour, like, feelings or anything. It's
Yeah.
just strongly believe that certain people come into your life in different stages, and that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. But yeah, like, certain people come from a certain chapter, but then that chapter closes and you continue. I mean, I would hope as a person you grow. Like, I think we all grow. Like, I know I've
Mhm.
grown. I'm not the
Mhm.
same woman that I am when I was 20 versus
Mhm.
now. And that's a beautiful thing, and it's okay to have different friends in different stages, so I 100% agree with that.
I'm glad that you also feel that way. So, overall, what legacy do you hope your story or your platform leaves when it comes to challenging norms?
I would say I just wanna redefine what traveling means, for women, just women in general. Of course, being Latina because I am Latina. But for the longest time, like I mentioned, I think traveling has always been this aha, like, okay, well, yes, everybody should travel. It's a beautiful thing, but you need so much money or you should have a partner. But no, like, I just want to redefine travel that you don't have to go across the world. Like, I'm telling you to go to the city that's right next door or go to the States and take a road trip, but disconnect and do something for you. Like, that's what I would want, that legacy to be the first maybe in your family so others can join you. Leaving that blueprint as well. Like, I don't just post things just to post things. Like, I want, people to relate to it. And I want to encourage other people. Like, when I get messages from people who are like, "Oh, I started a podcast because you started a podcast," or "I'm doing something for travel because you inspired me." Like, that to me is what leaving a legacy is. Because at the end of the day, we are human. Like, we need each other. We need people. And I will always stand by this. Like, there's so much room in that table for all of us to win. So if like if I can pull you up here with me, then I'm gonna pull you up here with me. Like I'm gonna mention your name in rooms and spaces because I know you would do the same for me. And that's the mentality because when one of us wins, like we all win. And that's the
Yeah.
legacy that I want to continue.
That's really beautiful, Bianca. And those are some great words of encouragement, just being encouraging overall. And specifically talking about traveling, I'm glad that you mentioned that traveling doesn't have to do with money. Like, yeah, you need money, but like it doesn't have to be a full on expensive trip for you to travel to another country. You can do like a domestic trip. You can find hidden gems like in your city. It's like the little things that bring you joy, and I think that's really important. It's an important element of traveling. It's more of like you're finding time for yourself, and
Yes.
I think that's really important. I agree. I think a lot of times, especially in our culture, we tend to compete with each other without knowing it. I
Mhm.
think that framework is already there because of the way we were raised, but that's not okay. And that's how we've been functioning. But when you realize that, there's something for everybody. The world is so big. There's success for everybody. There's always something for everybody, and we should help each other move on up and grow and succeed, and that comes with community. So I really love that. Thank you. What advice would you give someone who feels boxed in by others' expectations?
I think the first thing is finding your why, whether that's your purpose, whether that's your why, because that's what's going to anchor you and hold you down. And I'll share my story, right? When I first started traveling, it was in college and it was just to go to different college campuses. Cause again, like I grew up poor, low income, poor income, and we didn't have money to travel. And it wasn't until college where I was like, okay, like on my own, doing my own thing, the little money that I had is when I started seeing different things. And I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. Like, how can I incorporate this into my life? Right. Because I want to learn. I want to, go to these different cities. I want to try a Philly cheesesteak in Philly. I want to, go to New York and see the Statue of Liberty. So just finding your why and making sure that it's for you. And because that's another thing. I think a lot of times I reflect on my upbringing or just me being young Bianca, like it was to please others or I was trying to be, people pleaser to everybody. And I'm like, nope. At the end of the day, like you have to do it for yourself, not for your mom, not for your sisters, not for your boyfriend or family or significant other. Like you have to do it for you. So doing
Mhm.
that. And then I would also say that you need to start just small. Like again, I'm going to reiterate it. Just start small. Like whether that's a trip with your girlfriends to the city next door, whether that's taking yourself on a date. I feel like so many times, like especially as women, we have this thing that we need to go on a date and it has to be with a partner and you have to do no, date yourself first, sis. And like,
Yeah.
take yourself like I'll never forget the first time I lived on my own, I moved across the United States. So I lived in grew up in DC and I moved to New Mexico for work and I had to do things on my own. And so the first time I took myself to the movies, the first time I took myself out to eat, I'll never forget those moments. But now I reflect on it and I'm like, how come I didn't do this sooner? Like, how come I got
Mhm.
and it's a beautiful way to just treat yourself. So I would say that. So those simple things, like, start small, find your why or make sure you have your purpose and yeah, and take yourself on a date.
I absolutely love that. Where can my listeners find more information about you?
Sure. So my website is thislatinatravels.com. So you can sign up for my monthly newsletter and find all my good stuff there. You'll see my blog, my podcast, and all my social media handles is at This Latina Travels.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank
Mhm.
you so much, Bianca, for today's episode. And thank you for joining and sharing your insight on breaking stereotypes and having this conversation with me. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and share it with someone who might find it valuable. I will also be providing more details about Bianca under the episode description. I would like to end this episode with a quote. It's not our differences that divide us, it's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Until then, see you next time. Thank you.